sahbihi ajma'in. Ya Allah, kami memohon kepadamu, berkatilah majlis kami pada hari ini. Limpahkanlah rahmat dan keberkatanmu ke atas kami semua. Ya Allah, kurniakanlah kami kesihatan yang baik, rezeki yang halal serta kehidupan yang diberkati. Ya Allah, satukanlah hati-hati kami, eratkanlah silaturahim ke antara kami dan jadikanlah kami dalam kalangan hamba-Mu yang sentiasa bersyukur. Ya Allah, permudahkanlah segala urusan kami dan berikanlah kejayaan di dunia dan di akhirat. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wasallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Amin amin ya rabbal alamin. Thank you to Ahmad Zaki for the dua recitation just now. It is our great pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker for today, Dr. Wan Najmiyyah Wan Mat Adnan. Without wasting any time, please join us in welcoming our speaker, Dr. Wan Najmiyyah Wan Mat Adnan, to share her expertise. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Is my voice loud and clear? Can you hear my voice clearly? Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay, give me a second. I need to check in. Okay. All right. So today's topic is mastering the literature review and the art of synthesis. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank Ms. Nur Azwani for inviting me today. Actually, this is my second time being invited. Last semester, I was called, and this semester it was my second time with a student, so it was an honor, and I've quite enjoyed doing this, by the way. So I hope that you can learn something as well, and I hope that I learn something from you guys as well. Okay, so our topic today is what do you call that? The art of synthesis and in mastering the literature review. And I've heard that you guys have learned about have the basics about what literature review is. So basically, what we're going to do today is that by the end of today's lesson, hopefully you'll be able to understand the basic concepts of literature review. Okay, hopefully you'll be able to understand the basic concept of literature review and writing when writing research articles, and you're able to identify structural elements of academic writing, especially in terms of topic sentence, supporting details, conclusion, and all those things in what we should have in literature review. And then the last one is you should be able to organize ideas logically using synthesis techniques. Okay, so the most important part here today is that what to see in terms of what is the meaning of synthesization in literature review, how to write literature review, how to understand literature review in the very beginning. Okay, so my first question before we start, okay, now let's say, imagine that you just started to get to know someone new, or you have someone like your best friend just got a new partner, a new boyfriend, a new girlfriend. How many sources or news media, like social media platform, are you checking to get the full background story of this person? You know, I have like the option A, B, and C. Okay, if your answer is A, can you put down your answer in the chat box? Like, you do not check at all, you just trust blindly, you put an A. If your answer is B, you just check one or two social media platform, just a quick glance at their IG profile, you give your answer B. And you write down a C if you probably stalk a little bit more than two platforms, 3 or more, like you are looking up their high school photos, their cousins, their LinkedIn to verify the employment history. Can you answer with a C? Can you give your answer in the chat box? Okay, Siti Zulaikha said is a B. Anyone else? C. Okay, Anim Najla said C. C. Oh, lots of C's, yeah? That's the truth, right? That's what you've been doing, checking for more than one platforms. Not more than one. I think it's more than 3 platforms. Because, you know, you're just getting to know someone new. Okay, a lot of C's going on. Keep them coming. Okay, I see lots of C's. Okay, very good. We're not doing any stalking today, but it's almost something like that. Literature review is more almost like stalking someone on social media. I would say it like that. Why? Because literature review is like doing like C, like your answer C. It's you are probably checking to get full background story of this person, right? You are probably checking 3 or more social media accounts of this person in order to get to the high school photos, their cousins, their LinkedIn profile, their Facebook, if they have one, their TikTok accounts, to make sure that you can understand this person, to make sure this person does not contain any red flags, or whether they have a lot of green flags that you can agree upon, right? So literature review is something like that as well. You need to dig deep into a certain topic in order to understand the topic very well. That is like the basic of what literature review is all about. Okay, so there are different types of literature review. Okay, for example, when you want to write certain topics, okay, for journal writing, there are literature review that are used for thesis writing. There are also literature review used when you are writing conceptual paper. So there are actually different types of literature review. But the main consistent thing about literature review throughout all these different types is that you are looking at different types of literature, what people have said about the topic. Okay, like I've given the metaphor before, like it's like looking at different social media accounts when you want to stalk. I don't want to use the word stalking, but it's like when you want to do a research about someone, you look at their profiles and you don't just look at their just one social media accounts. You probably Google them up, search AI about them. So basically you did a full review of what you can find about that person. So it's the same with literature review. It's basically you are looking up a lot of information, different types of information about the topic that you are interested in. Okay, so there are 3 different types of literature review that I can share today. The first one is what we call thematic literature review. This is the most common one and the one that we keep on using. Okay, so thematic literature review is like each section reviews studies on a very specific aspect, and you synthesize findings and show connection between the studies. For example, you use different themes. Okay, themes number 1 is about AI in research productivity. So you identify study A, studies A, B, C, and D. And themes number 2, you identify another different topics in the theme, another different theme. For example, you search about AI and critical thinking in research. So you identify studies D, E, F, G, or something like that. And then you identify the gaps, that the lacks of studies on balancing AI efficiency with originality, for example. Yeah. So usually thematic literature review is best to be used for literature review that covers multiple perspectives. Okay. Number 2, the different types of literature review is that we usually use chronological. Chronological usually it's based on years. For example, if you have literature review back when in the 2000s, 2005, 2010. So it highlights the trends and shifts between perspectives and gaps over time. So chronological is all about timing. Okay, so you basically analyze literature review based on time, and it is usually useful for discussing progression of a theory or technology. So usually we use chronological literature review when we are discussing theories. We use thematic literature review when we are discussing topics, current issues, and we use methodological literature review when you want to organize studies by research methods. For example, when you want to emphasize on your methodology, then you organize your studies by research methods like qualitative, quantitative, mixed method. So it depends on what you are looking at. It depends on what topic that you are discussing about. So I think at degree level, for example, for FYP, the most common things that is accepted for the type of literature review that you are doing is both thematic and chronological. Okay, if you're writing a paper like journal articles for lecturers, for example, usually we are using thematic and methodological. Methodological, it depends if you are using what do you call that, studies on you're focusing on methodology. So for today's topic, we are focusing much more on thematic literature review, because I think that would be the basis that you need to know about literature review in general, and in terms of how you can synthesize the information using thematic literature review. Okay, so basically, literature review, we can say that let's just review what is literature review in general. This is what I call a pyramid model, where there are 3 levels there of literature review. So the first one is known as introduction. As usual, okay, in any type of writing, academic writing, we can always divide them into 3 different types. Okay, the first part is always introduction, the second part is always the body paragraph, and the last part is always the conclusion. I think you have gone through these parts as well during your English classes, but for today, let's just go back and refresh a little bit in terms of your memory, in terms of your understanding of what is introduction, what is body paragraphs, and what is conclusion. Okay, in any type of academic writing, if you're writing an essay of 3 paragraphs, if you're writing an essay of 5 paragraphs, if you're writing a chapter of 10 paragraphs, the format will always be the same. The first paragraph, if you're writing 10 paragraph essay, the first paragraph will always be introduction. The last paragraph will always be conclusion, and the middle paragraph will always be body paragraph. If you are writing only 1 paragraph, the first sentence is like the introduction sentence. Okay, so the literature review is always something about pyramid model. Okay, the introduction is where you define the key topics or concepts, and you provide context and significance, and basically you mention the general idea of what are the trends, and the early studies talks about it. And then you have to narrow down to specific issue or focus, which is what we call thesis statement. Okay, and then in the literature review section, you write about the main themes. For example, this is a thematic literature review with critical synthesis. So in the body paragraph, basically we organize studies by themes, methods, and debate. Okay, and we compare, contrast researchers' findings, which I'm going to show you step by step after this, okay, so that it's easier for you to understand. And then we can use multi-citation for synthesis, which also a part of of what we're going to do today. And then we're going to highlight patterns and gaps. So the formula is always the same regardless of what topic that you have, whether you are from Islamic banking, whether you are from finance, whether you are from economics, whether you are from language like me, the format will always be the same. It will always have introduction, it will always have body paragraphs, and it will always have conclusion. Okay, so in the conclusion paragraph, in the body paragraph, basically, like I said, we organize studies by themes, methods, and debates. We compare, contrast about the researchers' findings. Basically, the body paragraph is where the arguments are going on. Okay, we are arguing, debating all the information that you found with regards to the topic of your choice. And in the conclusion, basically we restate points, we show our contributions, and we summarize key insights of the reviewed studies. Basically, this is like the closure of your literature review, where you identify what is inconsistent, the research gaps, how your study is going to address the gaps, and continues with the discussion. Okay, so an example that I can show you of how a lit review section can look like is something like this, yeah. For example, your topic is on the effects of TikTok marketing on current economy. Okay, basically, you're going to look at how TikTok does in terms of marketing on current economy that we're having right now. So basically in your literature review, you would have introduction section, means that the first paragraph of your literature, where you can give brief backgrounds on the rise of TikTok as a global platform, like generally, and the importance of studying its economic influence, and the key focus on how TikTok impacts various sectors. So basically in the introduction section, you can give a brief background of what TikTok really is, the definition, the focus of what you are planning to do. So it's like a general idea of what your whole literature section is going to be like. And then in terms of body paragraphs, for example, I'm listing it here like 3 body paragraph, but you can have more than that. If your section you're going to discuss about the effects of TikTok marketing and you have more than 3 paragraphs, yes, you can. Sometimes you can have like 10 paragraphs long, okay, 10 subheadings, okay. So it depends on how many that you are going to elaborate in your literature review section. So the body paragraph in terms of digital economy transformation, for example, you enlisted 2 ideas, digital platform as economic drivers, a role of user-generated content in value creation. I'm just putting it out here just to say that the first step of doing a literature review is you have to list down first what is it that you wanted to elaborate on. Okay, I'm not denying the use of AI here, okay, because I know these days we cannot simply refuse and deny the use of AI. But what I tell my students, usually tell my students, what I normally do is that I would normally list down first in terms of what I wanted to do, because if you don't have the skeleton here, the outline here, then you are going to have trouble in terms of understanding what you are going to do, even with the help of AI, because AI usually will give you a soulless ideas, like very basic and very generic idea. Okay, and if you ask AI to do it for you, they would probably give you a very generic, a very superficial ideas, and you have to do a lot more of digging, a lot more of rephrasing, a lot more of paraphrasing in order to get to the depth of the idea, right? It's like when you ask about the effects of TikTok marketing on current economy, and they say, the attention economy and impulsive consumption, for example. But they do not give you very specific in terms of what you are looking for in your study, because every study is different from one another. Yeah. Okay. To make it clearer, okay, let me show you an example of what usually the different types of literature review that we tend to do. Literature review or writing. If you haven't done your literature review, maybe you can think about any writing that you have done so far. Okay, now there are 4 options there. So because every writer approach research synthesis through a distinct personality types, yeah. So there are certain people who are like Ramly Burger, perfectionist, where you layer every topic, every evidence, so you list down one by one neatly into a perfectly shaped, beautiful structure of writing. First we have to write the topic sentence, and then I have to put in the information, and then I have to give example, and then I have to do conclusion, and then I have to do it again. And the next paragraph is doing it again. It's like, like a very specific pattern. So do you think that you are this kind of writer? Or are you a B, the rojak ayam, the rojak ayam synthesizer? What do we mean by rojak ayam? It's like you just take any sentences from any text, and then you just combine everything, and you base them purely based on, I think this belongs together, so I just put them continuously together and make it into a literature, into a paragraph. Are you that type? Or are you C, the type of keropok lekor? Means that you copy paste everything. You just copy paste, and drop straight into the documents, and that's it. I mean, that is my literature review. You copy, AI said this, so I'm going to copy paste this paragraph, this sentence, so you combine everything. That is keropok lekor. Or are you the type ice kacang procrastinator means that you spend hours highlighting your PDF, you downloading articles, you highlight in bright colors, or this is the ideas that you want. I wanted to write in my point, but I don't know where to put them. So I ended up not writing the paragraph, but I ended up reading everything that I have. Okay, can you write down which one are you, A, B, C, or D, in the chat box? This includes both lecturers and the students, yeah? So do you think you are A, B, C, or D? Okay. You can be honest about it. No worries about it, okay? Just checking. Okay. Okay. Hidayah said B. Izati said B. Rojak ayam, eh? Anyone else? C. Putri Intan said C. Okay, B. No takers for A and D? B. A lot of B. Interesting. So you relate yourself to rojak ayam. A. Okay, Salsabila said A. Anyone else? D. B. A lot of B. Oh, interesting that you have a lot of B. We have a lot of rojak ayam today. Okay, Nabila said B. Who else is here? Can I get your answer? Oh, Amira said A. Okay, good. Any C? Any D? The most honest, you can be honest here, no worries, and nobody's judging you. I'm just checking where are you right now and where are we going from here. Okay, so B. Atira said B. Amira said A. Okay, anyone else? Okay, Aisyah said B. No C, yeah? You're not the copy paste kind of person, are you sure? This is the common ones, yeah, that we tend to find, not just among students, but among those who are doing literature review. Okay, are you A, B, C, or D? Oh, I can see some D, I can see some A, there's a C, there's a B. So which one is the correct answer? A, B, C, or D? Which one do you think that you are supposed to do for your literature review? Do you think what you're doing right now is the right one? Or do you think there are more to literature review than what you're supposed to do? Okay, interesting that you answer is B, A, B. Okay, now let me show you the basic of academic writing, the basic of paragraph writing. We're going to go back to paragraph writing today, okay? What you should write in a paragraph, whether it's supposed to be a ramly burger, rojak ayam, keropok leko, or ais kacang, okay? So what we're going to do today is to tell you that, sorry, when you're writing your paragraph, you should write in the form of a ramly burger. Okay, paragraph writing is just like eating a burger. Yeah, eating a burger in terms of they have layers. It should have layers. Yeah. Any writing that you do, you cannot do simply like a rojak ayam or nasi goreng or ais kacang where you blended everything that you think is good and you wish that it's going to end up great. Okay, not everything is going to be like that. Okay, so paragraph writing or academic writing, it looks like more like a burger, whereby, like I said, the first part is always the introduction. The second part is what we call the support, the details that you are going to elaborate on. Okay, like in a paragraph, for example, the first sentence of the paragraph is what is known as the topic sentence or the summary of your findings. Okay, it depends how many paragraphs that you are going to write. The details here, okay, in the middle part, as you can see, there are patties, burger patties, cheese, lettuce, tomatoes. Those are the supporting details of any paragraph. And the last one is what we call the conclusion, whereby you write the research gap. Okay. For example, if let's say you are writing a 10 paragraph essay, for on literature review. Your first paragraph is going to be the introduction. Your last paragraph will always be conclusion. Okay, so the middle parts are the supporting details, means that the middle paragraph, the writing paragraph. So the writing paragraph will always start like this as well. Okay, you will start with topic sentence, and then you're going to support with similarities and differences, and then you end it with a research gap. Okay, to make it clearer to you, okay, remember when I asked you before about what do you call that? The getting to know someone new, or getting I mean your best friend is just getting a new partner and you want to check them, you want to do an investigation on them. Okay, now let's do that. Let's do a little bit of a practice in terms of how the steps of how to do that. Okay, now let me show you. For example, this is going to be a topic. Let's say there are 3 people here. So you are going to do a comprehensive evaluation on partner suitability for your friend. Okay, for example. Okay, so you are going to do a comprehensive evaluation of partner suitability. We have 3 people here. Okay, so like I've mentioned earlier, okay, we have Anas, Iman, and Carlos, for example. So let's say your research, you are going to do a research on the background of these 3 people. Okay, you're going to do research on the background of these 3 people, and basically you're going to look at whether they are compatible, they are suitable. Basically, you're going to do a comprehensive evaluation of partner suitability. Okay, out of all the 3 people, which one do you think you would check first? Anas, Iman, or Carlos? Can you give me your answer? I mean, you're going to check on their social media accounts, like on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on where else? Instagram, Threads. Okay, let's choose one first. Let's say the topic, the huge literature topic is going to be a comprehensive evaluation of partner suitability. And you have 3 points here. You have 3 elaboration that you're going to do. So which one that you're going to do first? Anas, Iman, or Carlos? Can you give me your answer? Which one that you're going to check on social media first? Carlos. Wow, okay. Anyone else?
Iman.
Iman, okay. Any Anas? Anas, okay. Iman. Okay, let's see who's the most popular one. Anas, okay. Let's say this is your research. Your research is about, you're going to check about the partner suitability, and you're going to do a literature review about all these 3 people. Okay, so basically these are the 3 main ideas that you're going to elaborate on. So you're going to write a paragraph about Anas, a paragraph about Iman, and another paragraph about Carlos before you compare them. So how are you going to write about them? So how are you going to check on them? How are you going to investigate on them? What kind of literature that you are going to look for these kind of people? Okay, now let's start with the first one. I'm just going to give one example, yeah? You can do the rest on your own, but I'm giving you an example. For example, you're going to do an investigation on, let's say, Anas first. Okay, you're going to do an investigation on Anas. Okay, so basically, when you are doing a literature matrix, you're going to combine them into a table. You're going to combine them into a table, like we call this a literature matrix. So you're going to, if it is a real paper, then you're going to look at the articles, right? Article by Zhang 2014, by Ali 2024. So in this case, let's say you are looking at the behavioral dynamics of Anas, and you found your sources from all social media accounts. So let's say you are citing Facebook, you are citing Threads, you are citing what else? Instagram, and you are citing, the last one is TikTok. Okay, so let's see what you have found about Anas on Facebook. So you are saying that Anas replies in Facebook. We found that Anas replies to messages within 3 minutes. Okay, that is the idea that you get from Facebook. You're saying that Anas replies to messages within 3 minutes and always leaves wholesome comments on family photos. Oh, that is a green flag, right? Do you think it's a green flag? I think it's a green flag. Okay, for example, let's take it as a green flag. Green flag means positive, yeah? So usually type of flags here represents it's either something positive or it's either something negative. So let's see on Facebook, it's a little bit backdated because Anas is probably not using much of a Facebook unless he's communicating with his family members. So you found out that Anas replies to messages within 3 minutes. Oh, that's very quick because he's very... So you are making assumption based on what you found of your sources, yeah? So on threads, you found that Anas goes completely silent, posts cryptic quotes, and gets passive-aggressive if he has to wait long for food. So that gives the sign something negative, something of a red flag. And on Instagram, you found that Anas has an excellent aesthetic taste. Always split the bills evenly on coffee dates, taking pictures like, oh, showing that he treated waiters with respect. It depends on you. Maybe you think that is a green flag. Maybe it's a show off. It's a red flag. It depends on your understanding of the whole situation. But in this case, let's say that Anas shows a green flag. Okay, let's say Anas shows green flag. And lastly, you check on TikTok. You identify that Anas, actually the videos of Anas on TikTok, he screamed, unhinged. Okay, it's like he's ranting on TikTok at the screen while playing mobile games live, for example, and strictly refuses to share his French fries, for example. So this is another type of red flag. So literature metrics for the behavioral dynamic of Anas can look something like this. Okay, can look something like this. I think this is quite similar to what you will be doing for your literature review for your topic. So the serious ones, yeah, the academic ones. But I'm using this as an example to make it clearer to you what happened if you put in a rojak kind of literature together. Okay, so now you have all these ideas. So how are you going to write a paragraph about Anas? How are you going to report that as part of your literature review? Okay, what we usually see, okay, let me show you what we usually see. Okay, this is what we usually see from a lot of people. This is what I call the rojak methods. Means that you just paste everything. We have something about Facebook. So for example, you can say, oh, according to Facebook, Anas replied to messages within 3 minutes and he also leaves wholesome comments on family photos. Okay, then you talk about Instagram, right? Then on Instagram 2026, it shows that Anas has an excellent aesthetic taste. Always splits the cafe bills evenly and treat waiters with respect. However, on TikTok 2025, Anas is seen screaming unhinged rants at the screen while playing mobile games and he refuses to share his French fries. And finally, on Threads 2026, Anas goes completely silent, posts scripted quotes, and get passive-aggressive if he has to wait too long for food. This is the most common thing that we usually use when we are writing literature review. But what is wrong with this kind of literature review? Let's say if you are going to check on Anas, okay, do you find this helpful for you to know whether he's a green flag or a red flag if you're writing something like this? Can you identify, is the article the paragraph mentioned whether he is a red flag or whether he is not a red flag? I mean, he's a green flag or red flag. So what? When you list about Anas, you know what? Anas on Facebook, he's like this. On Instagram, he's like this. On TikTok, he's like this. And on Threads, he's like this. Does that answer your question whether Anas is a suitable person? Whether he's compatible? So what? What about Anas? What can you conclude about Anas? So basically, this is not what we call synthesis. Okay, this is what we call you are just describing Anas, but you did not argue. There is no argumentation whether Anas is a red flag, whether Anas is a green flag. There's no argumentation there. You are just putting it everything that you know about Anas, everything that you found about Anas, based on the literature that you found on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Threads. Okay, but there is no arguments going on. You cannot identify whether Anas is a green flag, whether Anas is a red flag, whether what you can conclude about Anas' attitude, even though you did a lot of research, but you cannot conclude what is his attitude. How do we find, is he really a reliable person? Is he not? Is he suitable? Is he answering what we are investigating? So it's blurry, right? So if you are giving this kind of rojak method on behavioral dynamic of Anas, it's going to be confusing for the one who's reading it because there is no arguments going on. There is, you did not argue, there is no synthesization going on. Okay, I'm going to show you another example of how the burger method looks like. But the secret to synthesis, okay, when we come to synthesization here, the secrets of having a good synthesis is that you need to group them together. You need to group the contrasting vibes together. For example, if you can see here, in the previous one that I've mentioned, Facebook says that he's a green flag, right? Instagram says that he's a green flag. Thread says he's a red flag. TikTok says he's a red flag. So what you should do is that you should group them together based on what type of flag he is. So in your literature, for example, type of flag represents the positive and negative statements. Okay, whether the positive means they agree with each other, or negative means they disagree with each other. So in this case, Facebook and Instagram shows signs of green flag about Anas. TikTok and Threads shows signs of red flag about Anas, right? So what you should do once you have your literature matrix, you should group them together based on what they agree and based on what they disagree upon. Okay, based on your themes. Okay, this is what we call synthesis. Means that for example, Facebook in 2024 and Instagram 2026, they talk about Anas as being high quality partner traits. Means that it's positive traits, green flag person. But for TikTok and Threads in 2025 and 2026, it shows that Anas has some toxic stress behavior. Okay, maybe you can, if you look further into other types of literature, like for example his LinkedIn or in other social media accounts or in Google, maybe you can find more traits whether it's negative or it's positive, it's red flag or green flag. Okay, so my suggestion is for synthesization, you should not list the platform but line by line. The literature should not be expressed like this literature said this said this said this. Academic writing is just organizing contrasting data into structured sandwich. It's not like listing. Okay, academic writing should not be just listing. Listing is like very superficial, and you should have certain arguments about it. So the first step is, once you have your literature matrix in, okay, like this, don't do the rojak method, but you should synthesize it by grouping them together based on the themes. What do they have in terms of, what are the similarities of themes? Do they agree on certain themes, or do they disagree on certain things? So for example, like Anas, I'm not sure whether we have Anas in the class here, in lecture here, but then for example, with I'm mentioning Anas a lot today. So Anas, for example, has high quality traits, partner traits for these two, from these two literature, and show another toxic stress behavior from these two literature. Okay, so once you group them together, the next thing you should do is that you should organize them into paragraph. Okay, so for example, this is an example of how what do you call that? Paragraph writing should look like in a paragraph. Okay. Now, in a paragraph, you should first start by mentioning, this is what we call topic sentence. Yeah. For example, your topic is that the behavioral dynamics of Anas. So investigations, so you're making a general statement first. Investigation across multiple personal data pools broadly acknowledge that Anas exhibits strong baseline characteristic of high quality partner. Maybe you can mention high quality, but he also has some negative or red flags characteristics as well. So you put in a general statement of a topic sentence there. What do you find about Anas in terms of behavioral dynamics of Anas? And then you identify the similarities. Means that in this case, what are the similarities that you can find? In this case, you find the green flag first, right? Okay, specifically, digital evidence shows a consistent patterns of high attentiveness and financial fairness, characterized by lightning fast message replies and strict commitment to splitting cafe bills evenly. So you are using similarities by citing from Facebook, from Instagram, and you can do multi-citations. Means that you can combine, oh, this is what we found based on these two, we found the similarities. Means that, oh, he's quite attentive because he pays the bills, he's aware of the bills. Means that when you go out, he pays for the bill, oh, he's attentive. So you can make conclusion that Anas is an attentive person. So you made that conclusion based on the similarities that you found on Facebook and Instagram, right? So you put them in one line. Okay, this is one paragraph, but I'm splitting into few sentences. Yeah. So the next paragraph. In contrast, a vocal minority of platforms caution that this green flag behavior completely deteriorates under stressful situations, pointing to severe gaming anger issue. This is from TikTok, right? And toxic passive aggressive food hoarding habits from threats. Okay, so these are the differences, right? These are the negative traits. So you put in the similarities or positive things in you organize them in one corner, and you organize the differences in one corner. Okay, and then lastly, the paragraph should have a conclusion or what is known as a research gap. For example, despite these contrasting behavioral patterns of Anas, there is currently a total lack of empirical data on how Anas' behavioral dynamics shift during high-stress real-world crisis. Maybe what you're looking at is that you are going to find partner suitability in terms of, how they react in real-world crisis. So you have to highlight the research gap in the last sentence in the last sentence of your paragraph. For example, consequently, a critical research gap exists regarding whether Anas' foundational attributes can withstand severe environmental stresses. So this is, for example, how a literature review would look like on the behavioral dynamics of Anas. Maybe the next paragraph you're going to write about Iman. And the next paragraph you're going to write about Carlos. I just read ni Adib say Anas nampak beriman. Right. So maybe, okay, it's interesting you said that ni Adib. When you say Anas nampak beriman, maybe you can look up a literature review on Anas in terms of where can I find literature about Anas looking like a pious person, a pious man, right? So you can support your literature about Anas, and you can support whether it's something positive or it's something negative. Okay, so this is an example of a paragraph writing in terms of how you can organize and how you can synthesize in the simplest way that I can explain. So for example, if let's say you have 10 paragraph, okay, so the topic sentence should be at the end of every subheadings, yeah. If let's say you're writing a thesis first, okay, I'm going to explain this in terms of when you're writing a thesis and when you are writing a journal article. When you're writing a thesis, you have like 10 pages long, for example. And each each subheadings, for example, you have like 5 paragraph long, right? So the first paragraph will always be the introduction. The second paragraph is the one that you are writing here. Okay, you have arguments, you have similarities, you have differences, and you have research gap. Okay, or you can also turn it into like first paragraph you're going to write just about the general idea of the topic sentence, and then the second paragraph you just want to talk about the similarities. It's fine, it's okay, because it's a thesis, what do you call that, thesis writing. And the third paragraph, the second, third, fourth paragraph, you're just finding out the similarities in terms of different themes, and then you identify the differences in different paragraph. But then the last paragraph of every subheadings, you need to have the conclusion and the research gap. Research gap is very important to answer your research question. So basically, your literature review, why you do your literature review is basically to answer research question. So for example, if you are going to do like example Anas, we're taking Anas again as an example. If let's say you're not going to investigate only Anas, means that if you're going to do a literature review to see the patterns of what do you call that, how do I say this, the patterns of what was the topic just now, and Rojak method, comprehensive evaluation of partner suitability. So let's say that is your title and you want to see the patterns of partner suitability in terms of how they handle high stress real world crisis. Oh, that sounds like a good topic to do. For example, I'm just taking an example here. Okay, so for example, when you do an analysis on Anas, this is what you found. When you do an analysis on Carlos, this is what you found. And when you do an analysis on, what was the other one, Iman kan? Iman, this is what you found. So you do a conclusion and research gap. Oh, based on what I found that Iman has the tendency of having more this and this and this. So that conclusion that you have is what is known as synthesization. Means that you synthesize ideas, and based on the synthesization means this one, the supporting, the the similarities, the differences, then what you found, what conclusion that you make, that shows the synthesization and shows that your literature is not one note. Okay, you have arguments in your literature. Okay, so that is how you can do your literature in terms of when you are writing your thesis. If let's say you are writing your journal article is something slightly different from thesis writing. Journal article, usually we have the literature section is like 2 pages long maximum, right? 2 to 3 pages long. So what should you write into? 2 pages, I think. If it's written in a single spacing, it's like 2 pages long. So what should you write in the 2 pages long? You should write one paragraph in the form of introduction, one paragraph, last paragraph in the form of conclusion, and the other paragraph should look like this. Means that each paragraph should have the topic sentence, similarities, differences, and research gap. A good article will always have structure like this. It doesn't matter whether in a form of thesis or in a form of journal article writing, in parts of literature review writing. Okay, you need to put in the similarities, you need to put in the differences, and you need to have the research gap. There are different ways of doing this actually. Some they have the similarities, differences, research gap. Similarities, differences, research gap in one paragraph. Okay, but the formula is still the same. You still need to have topic sentence, similarities, the differences, and then the research gap. Similarities and differences, like I said, it can be in the form of positive and negative things about the topic in hand. Okay, now we've talked about Anas. We're not going to go to Iman or Carlos, but let's implement this. Let's apply the same concept to a more serious topic. So, for example, okay, So for example, the topic is the same topic that we do the draft before that, right? The impacts of digital platforms as economic drivers. Okay, the impacts of digital platforms as economic drivers. Okay, so this is what it looks like in a paragraph. The previous one, I just split them apart. So this is what it looks like in a literature paragraph. Where the first sentence is what is known as the topic sentence. For example, when you talk about the impacts of digital platforms as economic drivers, TikTok, for example, let's say what are the general idea the scholars have said about the platform. So scholars broadly acknowledge that digital platforms such as TikTok have become major catalysts of contemporary economic activity, driving innovation through user participation, influencer marketing, and content-based entrepreneurship. So this is citation from Abidin, Kay, and Kenny, Zisman, and all of them. So you can put the, for example, in like Anas just now, you can put what all the literature have said, okay, in the very first paragraph, in the first topic sentence, and then you explain what each person has said, what each literature said. For example, first you talk about the similarities in terms of the impacts. Several studies, means a few studies, highlights the empowering potential of these platforms in supporting small enterprises and promoting creative digital labor, particularly among younger demographics who leverage short-form content for branding and income generation. So the similarities can be found in two papers, like Lim and Yazdanifart said the same thing. Zhang and Liu, they said the same thing as well. It's something positive about this. Talk about the same thing, that these platforms are supporting small enterprises and promoting creative digital labor. Oh, you found the same thing being said by Lim, by Zhang and Liu. So you combine them together and you put them in one group. Okay, and then the next part, the support is in terms of the differences. In contrast, use the word in contrast. However, nevertheless, okay, those are transition words that you can use to show arguments. Okay, so in contrast, other researchers caution that this growth is underpinned by exploitative mechanisms such as algorithmic control, data commodification, and unequal profit distribution. All those things. So this is like the synthesization of another thing. In your thesis, you can elaborate further. This is just in one paragraph, yeah. So if for thesis writing, usually we would elaborate further in terms of what each person have said, what each article have said, summarize what each article have said. Like I said, it can be in a form of like one paragraph for support, one paragraph for differences, and one paragraph for research gap. For research writing in terms of journal article writing, usually we put it like this in terms of simplified version, in terms of journal writing. There needs to be argumentation, there needs to be synthesization. Okay, so the last sentence, the last part is the conclusion or the research gap. Research gap is the most important part in the literature review. Okay, so if you are writing like 10 pages long of literature review, make sure at the end of your 10 pages long, there should be a research gap. If you are writing a 2-page literature review, make sure you need to emphasize the research gap at the end of your literature as well. Okay, for example, in this case, despite this contrasting perspective, little is known about how digital platforms like TikTok transform local and informal economies, especially within emerging markets, representing a critical gap. They mentioned the gap that this study seeks to explore. Okay, so this is what reviewer is usually looking for. They're usually looking for the gap mentioned in the literature, because usually when you mention literature, you tend to just state everything instead of synthesizing the information, grouping them into themes. Okay, so sometimes you just group them into themes. Oh, they're talking about TikTok, so everything should we just put everything on TikTok, and hope for the best, like rojak method, right? So that's what we tend to do, the rojak method. But the burger method, it should be organized nicely in terms of what everybody has said about it, what are the similarities, what are the differences, and what is the research gap mentioned. Okay, before I give you another exercise. Okay, this is another example. Okay, the second example is the impacts of foreign direct investment on economic growth in developing countries. This is another example of a topic, one of the parts in the literature review. Yeah. So as you can see, the first sentence is still the topic sentence. For example, it has long been regarded as a critical driver of economic growth, particularly in developing economies. You make a general statement first. You can even cite a lot of people here, the multi-citations. Okay. And then you put in the supports in terms of, this is another way of doing it, by summarizing the major findings first. What are each person have said, you summarize it in terms of the citation. This is what we call multi-citation. Alfaro, Borenstein. You support by summarizing the the major findings first, and then you support by highlighting the similarities between those findings. Okay. And then you support by highlighting the differences between those findings. And then you do the research gap or the conclusion. Okay, you do the research gap or the conclusion. In this case, despite the extensive literature, there remains limited consensus on the precise condition under which FDI most effectively promotes sustainable growth. So this is what you are looking for. Usually the research gap or the conclusion is based on your research question. How many research questions do you have? So if let's say you have 3 research questions, then you need to mention the 3 gaps. Means that this one answers which gap. So for example, this is your first research question. You are looking at the conditions under which FDI most effectively promotes sustainable growth in developing countries. So you're looking at the conditions. So you look for these articles in literature review, you identify this research gap. We don't have enough literature on this. They mention about this and this, but not much on how to promote sustainable growth in this area. Okay, so that gives you the leverage. This is the research gap number 1 that I plan to answer in my literature, in my research. Okay, so literature review is highly connected to the research question. So if let's say you have 3 research questions, you need to mention 3 research gap. Okay, what gaps that you have. So in order to get one gap, you need to look for lots of details. So in another simpler example, like the case of Anas, Anas, Carlos, and what was the other person? Iman. Okay. In the case of Anas, Iman, and Carlos, means that each gap that you found about Anas, each gap that you found about Carlos, each gap that you found about Iman, those are the 3 research questions that you are going to answer in terms of identifying the compatibility or exploring the whatever the partner suitability in a person or on social media, for example. Okay. So literature review is always related to research question. Whatever that you want to put in the literature review, you must relate to your research question. What is it that you're going to investigate? If you are going to investigate about Anas, let's find about Anas. What is the gap that we haven't found about Anas? That is what we are going to do in our research. Like your friends mentioned, Anas nampak beriman. But there's no proof that Anas looks beriman. So, that is going to be our literature, that was what we found. That we cannot find whether Anas he looks beriman, but is it true that he's that pious? So that is going to be your research question. First research question, you're going to answer that question. For example, so that is how we connect, how literature review connects with research questions with your research. It's always connected. It's not just simply you slap everything, you combine everything together into one category and you put them as like a rojak thing. Okay. All right, now let's take break, and it's not really a break. Okay, I'm going to give you a link here, to my notes here. Okay, I'm not sure whether you used a Canva whiteboard before. Are you familiar with Canva? That was my first question. Do you have Canva on your phone? Do you guys have Canva on your phone? Okay, good. All right. Okay. Now, if you have Canva on your phone, I'm going to give you a link to my page here. Yeah, let me share the link, copy link to this page. I'm going to put that in the chat box. Okay, I hope you can you click on it and you will get to the page, to this page. Identify the paragraph structure of these literature review. There are 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are from authentic literature review that I found online, different articles. Some are good ones, some are not so good ones. So we are going to identify today whether these are good ones or not. Okay, are you on the whiteboard now? Wait. Let me. Okay, I can see some of you are joining the whiteboard. Okay, so this is what we call Canva whiteboard. Yeah, Canva whiteboard is like a collaborative whiteboard where you can make notes, you can jot down notes. Okay, you can try it. Okay, this is like everything is here. Okay, so this is where I want you to identify the paragraph structure of this literature review. Okay, what we have here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 lah. Okay, because I screenshotted from an article, different articles, yeah. So we have learned about topic sentence. Okay, yeah, you can explore it. You can use elements, okay, like sticky notes. Okay, so today, to simplify it, I want you to use the tools highlighter. Okay, we have, you can draw, you can shape, you can underlines, sticky notes. Okay, I'm not sure whether you can use highlighter. Where do you find, okay, you find a highlighter. Okay, find a highlighter. So maybe you click on draw section here. Usually you will have the highlighter. So you can change the color of the highlighter. Yeah. So if you can click here, you can change the color into blue, purple, or whatever color it is. Then you can highlight it. Okay, something like this. Okay, so we're going to use highlighter today. Okay, this is red. So you can use different highlighter. Okay, so what I want you to do is that we have learned about topic sentence, summary of major findings, okay, similarities and differences, and the research gap. I've showed you some examples before, right? So these are some articles, some paragraphs from a journal article. Okay, so what I want you to do, look at the first 2 article here on top here, the one in highlighted in what do you call that? They have blue highlights there, right? Okay, can you identify the first one? Okay, or you can do another one. You can do others as well. Okay, because I know there are a lot of you here, 15, more than 15 here. Okay, so can you highlight the topic sentence, the topic sentence in purple? So you use purple highlighter to highlight the topic sentence of each paragraph here. Can you find the topic sentence? If you have problems finding the topic sentence, means that that paragraph might not have topic sentence at all. That paragraph might have a rojak paragraph. So your task is that I want you to identify which paragraph is a burger paragraph, which paragraph is a rojak paragraph. Okay, and you try to highlight all these things. Okay, because sometimes they might not have the summary of major findings. Some might not have similarities and differences. So if they don't have them, then you don't have to highlight them. But what I want you to highlight is that whether the paragraph has is a rojak paragraph or is it a burger kind of paragraph. Okay, so for rojak paragraph, let me show them some rojak photo lah. Rojak. Is this a rojak? Okay, for rojak paragraph, you put a rojak picture on the side. Okay, you can put it. Okay, for burger paragraph, you can put a picture of a burger on the side. Okay, so that we can see which paragraph is actually a good paragraph and which paragraph is not so good paragraph. It's just a rojak case where everything is jumbled up together. Okay, so I'm going to give you some times to do it. Okay, now is 3 p.m. So I'm going to give you roughly about 15 minutes. I think that should be enough. If you don't have enough time in 15 minutes, then I'll add up more timer. Okay, so I'm going to put in 15 minutes time for you to highlight each and every paragraph in this. Okay. So we have like 6 paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can choose whichever paragraph that you want. So maybe you want to choose topic sentence. So you use what do you call that? What was the color? Purple. Purple color highlighter. So you go paragraph by paragraph, whether you can identify the topic sentence in each paragraph. And then you go for support. So if you want to just find the research gap, so you highlight, you use a green green highlighter, and you just highlight it. Is there a research gap in this paragraph? Is there a research gap in this paragraph? If there's no gap, then, oh, that's probably a rojak paragraph. Okay, so if it's a rojak paragraph, you put rojak picture on the side. Okay, if it's a burger paragraph, you put lots of burgers around. Okay, all right, do it now. If you have any question, then you can ask, okay? But the main purpose of this activity is to see whether you can identify whether it's a rojak paragraph or it's a burger kind of paragraph. I mean, in academics way of saying things is that whether the literature review is a comprehensive literature review or it's just a bundled up literature review with no focus about anything. Okay. You can use the tool, draw, and use the highlighter. Okay, for purple, you use purple topic sentence. Okay. Or if you want to make an outline, whatever, you can do that as well. Okay, I saw the highlighter, but it's okay. You might take some time when you're not familiar with it. Okay, I see. Somebody is highlighting certain lines there. Okay. You use colors that are supportive of the highlighters here, yeah? Topic sentence in purple, summarizing major findings in pink, support similarities in, what was the color? Red. And blue for the differences, and green for the research gap. Are you able to do it? You look for hints, yeah? Hints, for example, therefore, that shows like a conclusion. Or however, that shows a contrast, the differences. Or you look for phrases like, what else? Play here. Uh, uh, what do you call that? The gap. Okay. So there are phrases that certain sentences, they use certain phrases to show the changes in terms of the similarities or the differences. Similarly, they use that word, right? Similarly means that support similarities. So you can identify that one. So okay. Okay, what can you find? Can you find the highlight? Can you highlight? Or you can drag the picture of the burger and the rojak on the side of the article, the paragraph. Oops. Okay, good. I can see some colors going on. It's okay. If you don't have enough time, I can always add on the time, yeah? Okay, good. I see some highlights. What about the first two? Interesting. Okay. Because different paragraph, different ways of people writing them, right? So sometimes they don't really write according to the structure that I've talked about before. So this time around, you can see how they put in the structure, whether they have the research gap or not. Sometimes they put in the differences at the end. Sometimes they don't even have the topic sentence. So this is the time that you can see, where you can analyze whether certain articles or certain what do you call that, certain writing is actually good writing or not so good writing when it comes to literature review. Okay, one paragraph is almost done. What about the rest? Okay, second paragraph is almost done. Second one is almost done. Oh, okay, good. You have 1, 2, 3 more. If you're not sure, you don't have to highlight. But if you're sure that this is like similarities. This is the differences. Summarizing major findings. Okay. Okay, what about the other 1, 2, 3, 4? I think I'll add up another 5 more minutes. Okay, because I know you're not going to be able to finish it. No worries. Okay. So okay, once you have highlighted it, can you guess which paragraph is a rojak, which paragraph is a burger format? So if it's a burger format, you take the burger symbol and you put it on the side of the paragraph, yeah? Okay, or you can use the elements here to show lots of other pictures, burger pictures, there are lots of burger pictures, or rojak pictures, rojak. Okay, so I'm not sure whether this is rojak, but you can use that to represent rojak. Okay. Good. Oh, this is hidden from the screen capture. Yeah. Never mind. You can highlight the rest. Okay. You can duplicate the burger. Yes, Putri has duplicated the burger. Put it on the side whether you think that, yeah, they're using the burger techniques, or is it a rojak technique? Okay. This is the saying that, oh, this is using burger technique. Okay. What about the rest? What about the first 2, 3, 4, 5? Interesting. Okay, once you have highlighted, can you identify whether they're using a burger techniques or a rojak technique? I've seen one burger here. What about the rest? Nobody's doing the first two. So Izzati, Putri. Okay, you're almost done with. Okay, good. Okay, then want to see where's the rojak one. Okay, interesting. Okay. What about the others? Okay, the first two you haven't done yet? The first two paragraph here. Can you highlight where is the topic sentence? Is there any summaries or major findings? Is there any similarities or differences? Or is there any research gap mentioned? Whether you can identify the research gap mentioned. Okay, I'll add up in you a few more minutes, 5 more minutes. 4, 5. Okay. So that you can finish up the other two, and then we're going to discuss each and every one of them. Okay, for those who just joined in, you can use the feature of the burger symbol or the rojak symbol at the side, like this one, okay, to show whether the paragraph, whether this paragraph, is this a burger paragraph or is this a rojak paragraph? Is it following the conventions of academic writing, which is the burger format, or is it not following the conventions of academic writing, which is like using a rojak format, like ABC, rojak, keropok leko, all together, yeah? Oh, that's a huge burger. If you disagree with what your friends have said, your friends say, oh, this is rojak. You say, oh no, I think this is a burger. You just put it on the side so that we can discuss whether it's a rojak or it's a burger. Okay, interesting. What about the other paragraphs? This one. Okay, what about the rest of you? Can you identify the topic sentence? The yellow, the support. Is there any summary of major findings or similarities? Did they combine it? Any multi-citations in terms of the differences? A research gap? If you can identify the research gap, that would be great. Okay, it's okay if you cannot identify them because sometimes it's hidden in plain sight. But if you're able to identify them, then it would be great. Okay, you have 1 minute and 20 seconds more. Can you at least identify whether do you think this follows the conventions of academic writing, whether it's a burger technique or whether it's a rojak technique? Okay, what about the last one and the first two? Is it burger or is it rojak? Do you need more time? I give you a few more minutes lah. Kesian you nak habiskan kan. 5 more minutes. for the first two, because I think you're almost there. Okay. Let's see who gets it correct, whether it's a burger or whether it's rojak. Okay. What about the rest of the first one? Is this a burger or is this a rojak? If you found that the article is probably confusing you, then it might be a rojak. Because an article or a writing should be clean cut and easy to read, yeah? 10 seconds. All right, time is up. Okay, you can continue highlighting if you want to. Okay, let's go through one by one, the one that you have done, yeah? So the first one, let's go through this one. Yes. Okay, if you take a look at this, although prior research has examined stakeholders' influence on public organization, policy adoption, see best at all the citations, yeah, they're using multi-citations there. The scholarship has typically focused on advocacy groups and community demography. Yes, that is a good topic sentence, basically. They mentioned that this paragraph is going to talk about advocacy groups and community demographics. You don't even have to understand what is written there. Okay, even I don't understand because it's not my paper and it's not even my field, but I can recognize that this is actually a good a good paragraph writing just based on the phrases that they use. So you know the first sentence, they mentioned that it's typically focused on advocacy groups and community demographics. So I know that this paragraph, they're talking about advocacy groups and community demographics. So that is a clear-cut this topic sentence. Okay, for instance, they give example. Okay, analyze how policy advocates frame issues, investigate how interest group influence policy changes for different states. Yes, they have summarized the major findings. Okay, if you're writing longer literature, maybe you can elaborate it further. By elaborating it further means that you are still summarizing the major findings, okay, under the same category. Similarly, yes, similarities. Okay, and then they use the word however. Okay, they use the word however means that they are talking about the differences. If you take a look, similarly, for instance, up until for instance, until the policies that actually can belongs in the same category means that they are talking about the similarities, not just the major findings, but the similarities as well. Okay, when they talk about however, means that they are talking about the opposite direction. What other people said that is in contrast of what the original idea in the beginning here. So they use about however means that there is an argument there. And you can see the argument comes not only from one person, from one article, but from two articles. So if you want to elaborate further on the same article, yes, you can. But you have to mention the arguments first. Okay, so they argue here, like the public organization that responds effectively to these stakeholders tend to make more legitimate decision. This is still in the arguments. Okay, so yes, this is still considered as the differences. So you can still highlight blue what Rand have said. Okay, now let's take a look at this is the last sentence, right? This paper draws on and extend the relational views of stakeholder engagement. Okay, that is like the summary. They are already starting a summary. So from this paper draws on and extend the relational views of stakeholders, that is already making conclusion. Stakeholders relation refers to the way organization interacts, blah, 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 or market dynamics. Okay, so this last sentence is like making a summary. This is actually from this paper draws on and extend the relational view of stakeholder engagement. This is basically, it's also another way of saying the research gap. What your paper is going to write, what your thesis is going to be. My thesis is going to write about this and this, based on this. So this is also parts of how conclusion can be made. So yes, this is actually a burger format. It's a good way of writing the paragraph writing or academic writing. The second one, in context, integrating sustainability actions into marketing strategies, or what is it? Sorry. Okay, creates positive consumer attitudes, encourage sympathetic perception of a company. Or you know, there are lots of market citations there. Yes, means that they are doing a summary of what the main idea is. This is also known as the topic sentence. Okay, this potentially corresponds with higher level. This is agreement. Okay, in terms of the similarities, good. And the next one, companies thus employ marketing, green marketing. This is also an extension of agreement, means that similarities doesn't mean that it's only one sentence. It can be in few sentences. Okay, the more you elaborate, the more the sentences will be. Means that if you're writing about the similarities, you can write into like 4 or 5 sentences, even into a paragraph. So in this case, this is also in pink. Companies that employ green marketing and corporate sustainability strategies to improve corporate reputation, blah, 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 up until 2020. This one is still the similarities. Okay, it belongs to the same team. Okay, the similarities. And then they provide the arguments. Nevertheless, merely engaging in corporate sustainability does not guarantee positive consumer perception. As recent study point out, means that this is a supporting detail for the blue one. Okay, so this is still blue. As recent studies point out, the interplay between consumer attribution and perceived congruence between companies and company strategy affects positive perception and the level of trust. This is basically the arguments, still the arguments, yeah. So meaning that this paragraph, they have topic sentence, they have supporting major, the similarities, okay, these two might belong together, and they have the supporting the differences. The only thing that they do not have is the research gap, but it's still considered as following the burger format. It's just that they're missing out the research gap a little bit, but it's still acceptable, okay, in academic writing because they followed the burger format. Okay, now look at this one. Although there was a significant positive evidence in integrating digital infographics in language classroom, it is crucial to address the limitations. Okay, particularly in redefining the role of teachers in facilitating effective integration. Okay, that is the topic sentence. There were significantly positive influences. Okay, very clear on positive there. Right. The next one, however, so that is the arguments. However, one limitation found. What is it? So there's argument there, and due to these reasons, means they are making a summary. Okay, may result in misinterpretation of information. That is, they highlighted the gap. They might not mention the word gap, but they highlighted the gap of the article. So yes, this is also another burger methods. Okay, another burger method. Look at this one. Role of integrity and ethical behavior. I saw that you only highlight 2 sentences and you gave up. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at it. The role of integrity and ethical behavior among the employee and employers in the workplace. Integrity and ethical behavior, okay, can promote healthy organizational climate, equitable relations, and confidence inside and outside organization. They highlighted 3 points there. So the first sentence, when you highlighted 3 ideas, means that you're going to elaborate on all 3 ideas in your body paragraph. But then you say, according to Chen Liu Zhou, psychology employee is an important psychology mechanism. So how does it relate to healthy, it does not relate to healthy organizational climate. It does not relate to equitable relation and outside organization. So if even in the second sentence, it feels a little bit jumpy. Okay, for employees, suddenly you're talking about employees. Entails practicing integrity and ethical behavior when performing. And there's no citation there. Literature review needs to have citation. Yes, you can have only 1 citation. Doesn't mean that you need to have everything in multi-citations. You can still have individual citations, like the one that you see, what do you call this? In here, like this one, right? This one is multi-citations. But this one is also multi-citations. This one, they have like individual citation. It's okay to have individual citation if you do that, if you use that as a supporting details, okay? But this one is clearly rojak kind of article because you can see how they just push them everything together into 1 paragraph, okay? So for example, the role of ethics for employers does not entail just individual behavior, but also maybe about environmental fairness, inclusiveness, and respect for people. Okay, but suddenly the next sentence is detached from the original sentence. It means that it's not smooth enough. And suddenly they're talking about ethical leadership and employees' behavior. So it feels that you already talked about employees' behavior on top here, and suddenly you mention it again here, means that you are just jumping here and there. You're just putting everything together and expect it to work. It doesn't follow the flow of academic writing. So yes, this is a rojak kind of literature. Good that you're able to identify that. Okay, next one, the last two. Okay, the purpose of product marketing is not, oh, this one is, there's argument. Two people say rojak and one people say burger. The purpose of product marketing is not only to increase sales, but also to introduce and remind the public about a brand or create brand awareness associated with a particular type product. Okay, that is the topic sentence. So you are expecting that the purpose is to create awareness, right? Okay. Brand awareness, okay, still talking about the product. Brand awareness is the ability for consumers to immediately recognize and remember a brand. Okay, good. Who said that? Alia and Briliana. Okay, good. Brand awareness is essential for business, product and services. Okay, who said that? Adi Wijaya. Okay. When a brand, but this is not against the idea, yeah? This is the same idea. This is still pink. Okay, this is not orange, is still pink because it's still under the similarities. When a brand becomes ingrained in the public's mind, it can become top of mind in its category. Okay, if you accept that, okay, fine, but it's still in pink. There's no argument, right? There is no argument. They are just agree with everything. There's no against something. There is no what do you call that? There is no differences. Okay, it's all pink. Okay, so I would say this one is also pink. Okay, pink until up until here. So the whole thing here is in pink color. Okay, so ideally, brand awareness should encompass the qualities that distinguish a product from its competitors. This is not a research gap, it's still in pink. Okay, so basically, this paragraph, they only have two colors. Let me put in pink, everything is in pink. Okay, you should put everything is in pink, eh? I'm just putting everything in pink. So if you can see here, okay, I'm dragging the pink color ones here. So as you can see, this is not a good burger kind of article because they're just putting in one side of the opinion. They did not argue at all. So as you can see, this is more like not quite a rojak, maybe more like keropok leko. Okay, more like keropok leko, copy paste, agree with everything. There is no synthesization happening. Okay, there is no synthesization happening. So yeah, kind of rojak a little bit, but not really a burger. Okay, so next one. Understanding the learning environment is also important in the informing the best experience for the students. In this case, transitioning from traditional to digital learning marks another milestone. Okay, while Fazlinda found this and this, okay, previous research have said, okay, good, you found the opposite thing. This shows what? This is a summary. Yes, this is a good burger format as well. Okay, so it's good that you are able to identify which one is a burger, which one is a rojak, or ais kacang, or keropok leko. Okay, good for you. Okay, all right. So now, let's move on to the last bit. Okay, before we end the today's lecture here. Okay. I think I did mention about how to cite. Okay, there are 3 ways to cite information. Yeah. So what I've emphasized today is a lot of on multi-citation. Okay, multi-citation is like when you are combining several studies, okay, together to show that they have the same ideas. So for example, TikTok promotes small business growth and influencer marketing. And you said that it's from Abidin, K, and Lim and Yazdani Fard. Okay, so when you are combining several studies, if you found several studies saying the same exact thing, you put the names at the end of the parenthesis, okay, like this one, like Abidin here, okay, and you separate them by semicolon and in alphabetical order, not in like A start first and then K and then L. Okay. And there are also two ways to cite. Usually, sometimes you put Abidin at the end, sometimes you put Abidin in the front. So when do you put Abidin at the end of the sentence? When do you put Abidin in the front of the sentence? You put Abidin at the end of the sentence when you want to focus on the idea rather than the author. That is why if you look at my previous note, I will give you the link to this lecture later to Ms. Azwani so that you can refer to the notes. When you want to focus on the idea, you put the name at the end. But when you want to focus on who made the point, if he is a highly influential researcher, then you put Abidin in front. If nobody knows who Abidin is, then Abidin deserves to be at the back of the sentence. Okay, so unless Abidin is a very famous person, a very famous researcher, a very established researcher, then you can put Abidin at the beginning of the sentence. If it is not, then he deserves to be at the end of the sentence. Okay, so that's how you cite your literature. Okay, so what multi-citation demonstrate? Number one, it demonstrate the patterns. This is what we call synthesization. Multiple researchers support the same idea. That is why you use multi-citations. Okay, if you don't want to use multi-citation, it's fine. But I would suggest that you use multi-citation at least at the beginning or at the end of your literature if you're not familiar with it. Okay, so that to show that you understand what you are doing, you do some synthesization. You can see the patterns and the consensus of the researcher. Okay, it also shows some comparisons and contrasts like what we've been doing today, and it shows efficiency and cohesions in terms of synthesizing ideas. Okay, to avoid repetitive writing and provide better flow of the paragraph. And last but not least, it shows critical engagement because multiple citation signals that the writer has surveyed the literature broadly. You have surveyed about Anas on all platforms. So you can say this. So it shows confidence. It shows that you are confident with your literature and what you have found. Okay. And like I've mentioned, in terms of ethical consideration in literature review, try to avoid plagiarism. Means that you can draft using AI, but even AI, they won't be able to put in-depth information. So use it to structure your literature, but not to write the literature for you, or else your literature would be soulless. Okay, they don't know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. So they're supposed to help you, not do things for you. Okay. And like I said, avoid over-reliance on AI-generated content without proper attributions, and make sure you respect the original author's work and do not misrepresent or manipulate findings. And in literature, every single sentence should be cited. Okay, every single sentence should be cited. That is why you have to be careful on what you put in your literature, and always paraphrase them to avoid being issued plagiarism signs. Okay, all right. So, as a conclusion, can you state one thing that you have learned about literature review today? Can you write it down in the chat box? What have you learned? Okay, before we end today's session. Oh, it's already far. Okay, so can you write down one thing that you have learned about literature review today? Write it down in the chat box. I want to read them. What have you learned about literature review today? At least one thing. I need you to learn at least one thing. I learned about Rojak. Okay, fine. What have you learned about literature review today? Can you write in the chat box? Did you not learn anything? What have you learned today about literature review? Saya dah penat membebel 1 hour, 2 hours 2 hours. So what have you learned from today's lecture? Anyone? What have you learned from literature review today? I want to see your answer. Come on. We have how many in the class today? What have you learned? Nobody learns anything? Okay. Izati said she learns on how to differentiate the structure in each paragraph. Very good. Anyone else? Okay. All right, good. Keep them coming. Need to do it step by step like a burger. Yes. If you, let's say you have like 10 paragraph of literature review, means that you have like 10 triple cheeseburger. Triple cheeseburger. Okay. LR burger. Topic, similarities, differences, conclusion, research gap. Very good. Okay. At least you learn something, yeah? At least I hope that you get something, even if you say it, oh, it's a burger. Literature review is like burger. It's not just literature review actually. In any type of writing that you are doing, in any type of essay that you are doing, the format will always be the same. It always looks like a burger. It's just the content is different. For literature review, you compare and contrast. It's like argumentative essay. If you're writing a different type of essay, you still have introduction, body, and conclusion that you have to do. It's just that the body paragraph arguments is different. If you're writing literature review, it's like you're writing an argumentative or what do you call that? Compare and contrast essay. Okay, but if you're writing about discussion essay, then it would be different. Okay, like chapter 4 later, then there would be different arguments as well. But it's something quite similar to at least once you've understood how to write literature review, once you have understood how to synthesize information in the literature review, then you would go very far, and you can analyze you can analyze whether the literature review is of good quality or not so good qualities in terms of rojak literature. Then inshallah you should be okay in your literature review writing. Okay, all right. So I hope you learned something today. Arrange sentences like a pro. Yes. Okay. Anything else before okay, let's wait for you're still writing. Okay. The style of literature review is like burger, rojak, and others. Okay. The 4 steps in paragraph writing. Introduction. Uh, is in paragraph writing is actually 3, yeah? Introduction, body, and conclusion. What I've introduced is that the 4 steps in literature paragraph writing. So it should be introduction, yes, similarities, differences, and conclusion. That is the simplified version. There are many other versions, but I think this is the simplified one that I can share with you so that it's easier for you to digest. Okay, very good. Anything else that you would like to add? No more? All right. So if there's no more, this is the last slides for today. So I give it back to the Mr. or Mrs. Chairperson today. Miss Chairperson, eh? Okay, thank you everyone. Okay, back to Miss Chairperson today.
Thank you to our speaker for the insightful sharing session. We will now proceed with the live Q&A session. Participants may continue to submit questions through the chat box and we will read out selected questions.
Okay. If you have any questions, you can ask, yeah? Any question? No question. As usual.
So, thank you for everyone participation for the question, but two questions. Okay. Before we conclude today's program, here's a brief recap of today's session. Throughout the program, we were exposed to valuable insight on the importance of research and literature review in academic studies. We also gain understanding of research process, methodologies, current trends, and opportunities in the field of research. We hope all participants gain useful knowledge and inspiration to become more involved in research activities and contribute to the development of knowledge, innovation, and society in the future. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to express our sincere appreciation to our respected speaker, Dr. Wan Najmiyyah, Wan Adnan, for the valuable insight and knowledge shared today. Before we conclude, we would like to invite everyone to turn on your camera for a group screenshot. So you guys can open your camera.
Is there any Anas?
Miss Wani,
She's here.
Yeah, I'm here.
who's captured this photo?
Okay, jap. So you screenshot?
I cannot screenshot this. Sorry, Miss.
Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. Okay. Irfan? Irfan ada tak tu? Boleh apa? Turn on the camera.
Nak kira ke, Miss?
Okay, boleh?
1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Satu. Okay, one more.
One more.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Okay. Thank you for thank you for opening your camera. I would like to invite everyone to fill in the Google form for attendance and certificates. In the chat box.
Ano, kita bagi sini assessment.
Okay. Thank you once again for joining us. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Miss.
Okay, thank you everyone. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss. Thank you, Miss.
Thank you, Miss.